Well, I agree with independence if we're talking about genuine self-determination for the people of Scotland. And I want to see the agenda moved away from Salmon's nationalism to a concept of internationalism from below. I want to see a radical Scotland. I want to see a Scotland that's a socialist republic. And I think one of the main things that we have to do is be aware that while we're tied to the Crown powers, while we're tied to the Bank of England, then that genuine self-determination is not going to happen. So we have to take this agenda and move it radically to the left.
Essentially, I support it for democratic reasons because I think that there's people in Scotland will have far greater control over their politicians. It's a device by which we can change policy in the future. So, I see it as a first step towards a different type of Scotland.
I'm in favour of independence because it would be a stepping stone towards the possibility of a radical transformation of society in Scotland. It would open up, it wouldn't transform Scotland, but it would open up the possibility for a radical or socialist transformation in Scotland, and that has to be the reason for all people who are progressive or on the left to support independence.
For me, it's about hope. It's about, looking towards a brighter future and about us taking responsibility for our own country and our own people, and about really moving forward and doing things differently.
The hope for a brighter future, a future where people aren't scrabbling for a wage, which is the double-edged sword. I've got so much hope for a yes vote that a no vote would just be such a blow.
You see the draconian rules, the Parliament, dishing out or cutting back, and they've already cut far too deep. Folk are starving, seriously starving, so I want to live in a country that people seriously value each other.
I think the time has come where we need to make a really dramatic change to the way in which our country is run and the interests in which our country is run for. And I think that independence offers us the opportunity to change from being run in favour of big corporate interests to being run in favour of the interests of the people. And that's why I'm campaigning for a yes vote next year, and it's why I'll be campaigning for a fair Scotland, for more just Scotland after the vote for independence next year.
When it comes to 16, then you're voting for who you're going to put in place in that independent Scotland. And that's who you have to get to in the first place. We can have all these dreams and aspirations, but we have to get to the folk that's actually going to be elected.
I suppose what you've got is a smaller market. I feel like it's a smaller area. It's a more accessible government. Instead of Westminster, which is so divorced from the reality of life in Scotland for your average person, the Parliament in Edinburgh offers an alternative, offers access to everybody. It's within striking distance geographically.
Well, I'm from Liverpool originally, and I always believed in self-determination for Liverpool. Lived in Scotland for a long time now, and it just makes sense. It's a no-brainer. We have a government ruling that we never voted for, and really we have great opportunities to work with a government who I think is far more progressive, and a new Scottish government independence could be even more progressive.
It opens up like a left, like space in England for a left party, because hopefully the idea that Labour will solve everything will go away, and then an actual left can actually develop and make it socially just and decent again.
For me, it's about young people and how they're represented, how they become the future, obviously. And right now, obviously, we've seen massive youth unemployment, underemployment constantly. And the British state, because of neoliberalism, because it's so entrenched in the British state, that's going to continue no matter what parties in Parliament in Westminster, doesn't matter. So through the whole process of creating independence, I think that we can actually get much more participation from working class citizens, for communities, for young people, and they can actually start taking control over their own lives, their own futures, their workplaces, their communities, and actually can change the way things are governed at the moment.
There's a real question around political momentum, and the political momentum that exists around the Yes campaign is undoubtedly far, far more radical than anything you could possibly hear from the No campaign, who's based their argument completely around fear. Our movement's much more geared towards collective action, different ideas, allowing space for minority views to be heard in a much more focused way than anything that's possible in the current setup. And I think if you transfer that through, you've got a serious chance of bringing about social change in Scotland.
Whatever happens in September, a battle's got to continue, right? The battle for ideas and the battle for us to make sure that we fight against the capitalism which ruins all of our lives in this country.
Save the Charlie Reid Centre, save Scotland. Oh Scotia, what is freedom worth if it does not defend those of lonely birth, those disabled in body or mind, where nature's path went so unkind? Remember Rabbie's Ode to the Mouse, and wha forgets the bonnet's louse? Poets now sign our petition, for they know full well the Scots tradition. And those in unions come to our aid, for there is reason to be afraid, for if they get us one by one, in the end there'll soon be none. Bring back the spirit of Jimmy Reid, whilst he say he's truly did. I saw him storming beside Ojo Hull, organising what they cannot kill. The mettle of the Scottish people, whose anger has begun to ripple against Tory cuts and a new Labour spin, our heritage is the will to win.